What's up, guys? M.V.K here, back again. How's everybody doing? We're here to drop another Patreon request. This is the third or fourth Patreon request for the new year. And this one, I'm forgetting who this comes from. I know it's one of my Omega tier level members. Oh my God. I'm forgetting who it was. I had it and is it Jalen? Damn it. One more. I gotta see who this is from. Okay, let's see. Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot this. I apologize. I usually have this thing. Okay, let's see. No, this is from Duke Lawton. So I am so sorry. I had your name, Duke, and I'm just like, how am I forgetting his name? Because his name is my nickname that my dad gives me. Anyway, Duke Lawton basically asked me as an Omega level tier member. He's an Omega level tier. This is at the $5 tier members. It is known as History of the Character tier. Basically, you give me a character of any fiction and any fictional character, and I'll give you my history on that, like when I discovered this character, why I love this character so much, and things like that. So yeah, and today Duke asked me to do my history with this character. As you can see, I'm wearing the shirt, and it probably may be messing up the damn green screen because I am using a green screen. But if it doesn't, I apologize. Okay. But anyway, Duke, my history with the immortal Iron Fist. This should be fun. This should be good because my history goes back a long way. It goes back to when I was about 11 or 12. And most Marvel characters, believe it or not, I discovered a lot of the more characters that came out during the 70s, I discovered through Spider-Man. And Iron Fist is no different than that. So let's take it back, shall we? We take it back to 1993, around that time. I believe it was 93 or 94, one of them, when I discovered Iron Fist. I thought he looked a little goofy at times. I thought he looked a little goofy, but for the most part, I was like, okay, who's this kind of martial arts looking dude? Like, who's this dude? And I saw him in a Spider-Man comic. I think it was his time during, I think it was Maximum Carnage, the Maximum Carnage series, where I first discovered him. And like anything, when I see characters like that, then I go back and I do my research on most of them. Iron Fist was not one of the characters that was in that 25 book stack that my father gave me when I was a kid. So no, it wasn't in that pile. So Luke Cage was in that pile, but not him. So I discovered Iron Fist in the 90s, early 90s, during the Maximum Carnage series. I think, if I remember correctly, he was in that. He was an ally with Spider-Man, and I thought it was cool. I was like, oh, why is his hand glowing? I was like, oh my God, why is his hand glowing? What's wrong with his hand? Like, things like that. I didn't know what was his hand was glowing. I'm like, ooh, but I saw he was a martial artist, and me being in a practitioner of martial art myself, I was drawn to that. I was instantly drawn to a character like that. So I'm like, oh, what's this character? And then through that time, guys, I started to, over the next course of the few years, I started to go to my local comic store. And whenever my dad would take me there to the comic shop, usually it would be a Saturday, he would take me there. We would go before Midtown. Before that, there was a comic shop in the Bronx, New York, that I used to go to on Fordham Road. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, Fordham Road. And there was a comic shop right in this building complex that we used to walk up and go in. And I used to sit there for hours and read comics, but also pick up books too. Mostly it was Spider-Man or X-Men, but with that, yeah, I remember asking the dude, I was like, do you got any I didn't know his name. I just was like, the guy was like, describe him to me, and I said, he's got yellow. He's got a yellow mask. He's got green, and his hand glows. And they're like, oh, Iron Fist. I was like, yeah. Yeah. Do you got any books on him? And they gave me like this big essential book of like Marvel has these essentials, and I sat there and I read through it. Pretty much, I got not nearly halfway through it, but I got enough. And I was amazed by this. I was like, oh, okay. So I started reading it. His name is Daniel Rand, and he comes from wealth. And I'm like, okay, I get that. But his parents were killed by their partner, and he grew up in this mystical city called Kunlun, and in Kunlun they taught him martial arts, and he learned by this character known as a Thunderer. And I'm like, ooh, that name, it was very Mortal Kombat-esque. I'm like, ooh, this is cool. You know, I'm reading this, and I'm like, okay. So, and then of course he tested to become the weapon of Kunlun, which was known as the Iron Fist. And he was young at the time. Like he was Danny Rand was probably the youngest to acquire the power of the Iron Fist, and it was really cool. He had to fight this dragon, and I'm like, with his bare hands, and once you punched the dragon with your fist into you would gain the power, and the dragon's name was Shu Lao, the Undying. So the dragon can never die, but you would gain the power. And then of course I read, Danny came back to America later on and found the man responsible for killing his parents. And then of course him using his company Rand Corporation to do more things. And then of course it didn't last too long, because Iron Fist is his Iron Fist's books weren't really selling that well. But I do remember reading the issue when Sabretooth debuted, because a lot of people forget that Sabretooth was debuted in Iron Fist's book, not Wolverine. And I believe Claremont was writing that. So and it was really cool to see that. I was like, oh, Sabretooth. I was like, oh, I thought he was a Wolverine villain all day. I was a kid back then, but it was so cool to learn and see Danny, and I'm like, okay. And it was funny. It was even cooler, like to see like the power of the Iron Fist is so powerful and things like that. And then of course him teaming up with him becoming like meeting his best friend, his bro Luke Cage, and they joined up together, and Power Fist. Iron Man and Iron Fist and Power Man and Iron Fist, and I would read a little bit of those and just see how that bromance evolved. And then of course over the years, Marvel stopped putting out a lot of Iron Fist over the years. Iron Fist would just be a guest star, and then by the time I was like in my 20s, and by the late 2000s, they kept trying to do stuff with him, and it wasn't really selling as well. And then comes Ed Brubaker, and Matt Fraction took over later, but Ed Brubaker started it with his Immortal Iron Fist run. And man, that just blew my mind of what Mr. Brubaker accomplished with that run. Now we're getting a more in-depth story into the Iron Fist. I always figured that Danny was not the first. I always had that feeling like he can't be the first. This has got to be a legacy. More of a. And then we got to see more, like, over the years. Kunlun, there were others before him from different eras. I remember there was I'm forgetting her name, but she was the Iron Fist during the Han Dynasty. It was really cool. And there was one during the Crusades, and but there was always an Iron Fist. And then of course Danny's predecessor, Orson Randall, who was the Iron Fist during World War II, but he was still alive. That was the other cool, interesting thing about it. Was like the Iron Fist. And what was really interesting about what Mr. Brubaker was writing, and then of course Matt Fraction took over, was that every Iron Fist died at a certain age. They all died at age 33, except for Orson Randall. He was still alive, and he still had the power of the Iron Fist, and then they started ensuring that no two Iron Fists could be in the same period at the same time, because if one tries to use it, the other would. It was almost like that the other would be ciphering the power from that previous. So when Orson would use the Iron Fist with his I believe they were the same type of guns that the Phantom and the Shadow used, but he would channel his chi into those. And then of course came when Danny tried to use it, it was ciphering and it was hurting him. So yeah, and of course we find out that there's a reason for why no Iron Fist lived past 33. We found out that there was this creature, this dragon-like creature who would like possess somebody, and he would be killing those Iron Fists. And at first it didn't go that he didn't kill Danny. Danny lived past his, but then as of late they actually came back to that story in the Iron Fist anniversary special, where this is when Danny wasn't the Iron Fist anymore, and that creature, I'm forgetting the creature's name, killed him. That's why you don't see Danny anymore in books now. Danny's dead. But recently it is shown that somewhere in the future he's coming back as something else. I think they're calling him Ghost Fist or something like that. But I love the combination of what Iron Fist is. He's superhero mixed with martial arts, and I like that. And of course, because of the fact that he came out during the 70s, like your Shang-Chi and your White Tigers and your Luke Cages and people like that, of course you can see he's an homage to, the legend himself, Bruce Lee. Sure, Shang-Chi really is embodying that, but Danny is exceptional as well, and he also embodies the whole mythos of Qigong, and building your chi and using it as a force, even though it's not what you think it is. So it was really interesting to see, and then over time, like after that run, I would still stay loyal to Iron Fist, and there were a lot of people that came on and tried to take Iron Fist. I mean, there was Kara Andrews, he did one, and there was a couple other people. Ed Brisbane, he did his, and when he did it, I love that Ed Brisbane, when he did his run, he brought it back to kind of back in the day. Like, he was the one that reintroduced people to the rivalry between Iron Fist and Sabretooth, which was really cool. And then of course Iron Fist was always guest starring in video games. Like, he would guest star in games and stuff. But over time, and then of course we were always talking about, I would love to see an Iron Fist show or movie, who could play the character of Danny Rand. And then we get it. We get when Netflix got the rights to Daredevil and Iron Fist and Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, we got to see it. And unfortunately guys, I was not a fan. Excuse me. I was not a fan of Finn Jones as Danny Rand. I was not. It was the weakest. It was the weakest of the Netflix series. I have nothing against Finn Jones, but he was not the right person for that role. He wasn't. And the fight choreography looked rehearsed too much. It looked like they only had like two weeks to learn a little bit of martial arts or kung fu just to make it look good. I did not like that. I was not a big fan of that. It was cool to see Colleen Wing, because Colleen was one of the few people that Danny met. She was the first person Danny met. She and her grandfather was the first person that Danny met when he came back to Earth. But I was not impressed by that. I did not like Finn Jones, and I was saying for years, the actor that should be playing Iron Fist is Christian Howard, the actor who played Ken Masters in the Street Fighter Assassin's Fist run. And then what would happen later on? Mr. Howard would actually play Iron Fist. He would play Orson Randall in a fan-made film you can find on YouTube now. It was great, and I loved it. And I'm just like, he should have been Iron Fist from the get-go, because not only was he can act, he's a martial artist and a fight choreographer. So all I was thinking about was like his choreography would have been perfect for Iron Fist. So I've been saying for years, now, like, look, whenever they bring Iron Fist back into the MCU, which I feel like they may be doing it for the next Shang-Chi, give Christian Howard a call. I'm sure he would do it. Give him a call. I just don't want to see Finn back. He just was not the perfect. He wasn't Danny for me. He wasn't. And of course, in terms of what's going on now with Iron Fist, they introduced the new Iron Fist, and y'all see him, but they introduced this character way before you. The character you see in Marvel Rivals, that's the current Iron Fist. He, Luli, can't remember, but he's the sword master. When Marvel had brought in a lot of these characters that are Korean based, he was called the sword master. And when they started to promote who's going to be the new Iron Fist, when they showed Danny walking away, they did the whole Spider-Man No More poster, and I'm like, oh, I'll always like stuff like that, but I'm also like, and I get why they did it. I get why they made this new Iron Fist. They wanted more representation, I guess, and I get it. But to me, I remember when they were bringing in Iron Fist, and they were like, okay, they got 2 white actors, they got a black actor. How about this Iron Fist be Asian? And I was just like, but you're stereotyping yourself now. You're stereotyping yourself. Why would you stereotype yourself? Why would you stereotype yourself because all Asians know martial arts, right? That's not true. So why would you stereotype yourself? And I would have conversations on social media about that. I was like, no, keep it the true source material. Like, yes, he's a character blended in Asian culture, but he's not making fun of it. He's not disrespecting it. So why change that? If you're going to bring in a Asian Marvel character, let it be. So that's why I was glad when they brought in Shang-Chi. Great. But at the same time, when they brought in the Swordmaster to play him, as soon as I saw that, I was like, I instantly knew who it was. I was like, that's the Swordmaster. And once that issue came out, that miniseries came out, I read it, I was like, told you. I was like, I knew it was a Swordmaster. It's not going to be, I know people was like, oh, it's going to be Shang-Chi. I'm like, why does Shang-Chi need the Iron Fist? Shang-Chi can beat Iron Fist in a fight. And it's true, because Danny even mentioned it. He said, if I don't use the power of the Iron Fist, he can beat me, no problem. He's more skilled than me. Shang-Chi trained his whole life as a kid. Isolated. All he did was eat, train. It's different. So yeah, I'm not disappointed, but I'm looking at, I look at the current Iron Fist, I'm like, well, you're not really doing anything with the character, are you? What's the point of it? Like, y'all haven't done anything with him. After they did that miniseries, they have done nothing. And after they did the anniversary special, because it was celebrating 50 years of Iron Fist, they've done nothing with him yet. Marvel has not touched him. He's not on any teams or anything. And that's sometimes the problem I have when you change a character. You're trying to give inclusion to a character, or remember, Iron Fist is a legacy character, and there's the next person. But Danny wasn't dead. Danny sacrificed giving up the power to protect the world. He didn't die. He sacrificed the power. And again, it was just very, I just didn't like it. To me, the definitive run of Iron Fist will be the Immortal Iron Fist by Ed Brubaker, and then Matt Fraction took over it. It gave you more in depth, and I loved, how they had the Book of the Iron Fist, and Danny would read it and learn how to, even if he was hurt, he would learn how to focus his chi and heal himself. I was loving that stuff, and I was hoping the the series would be more based off it. It was, but not as much. If they do it again, that's where they should take it from. More and more, go real in depth into it, like showcase the other Immortal Iron Fist, and showcase like, okay, this was this Iron Fist during the Crusades, during the Han Dynasty, you know, this, that, and up until now. But my love for Iron Fist will always be, he's one of my top 10 favorite Marvel characters of all time. I love the character, and I wish Marvel does more with him, but at the same time, do more with him that isn't just about, you know, you're just trying to include something just to make it feel more authentic. Because again, that was my biggest problem currently with it, is like, okay, what, all right, you got your wish, you got an Asian character to play the Iron Fist. Mind you, that character was already a character before, but now you're giving him another character. And the reason why you give it, because his sword broke, his mystical sword broke. So, and it was embedded in his fist. That was something I was like, oh, like he still had shards of the sword in his fist. So you could, that's why it was wrapped. Like anytime I was like, oh, that's kind of gross. But outside of that, yeah, that's how far back I go with Iron Fist. It started in 1993. I was 11, and I've been a fan of the character ever since. But at the same time, there are characters that he's a character that I want to see more of. I actually want Danny back as the character. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, and I'm not sorry. No, you know what? I gotta stop saying that. I'm sorry. If it's offensive that if I offended you, that I want the character, which he started out as being white, and he now is Asian. If I offended you, I'm not sorry for that. That's who he was. It wasn't disrespectful, and you got to remember the time period. I get that people wanted, you know, there were some people that wanted a new character, you know, to play the role, but there was already an Iron Fist before the current one. Now, there was, during the run, there was a little girl who had the power, and Danny was teaching her. So it was just weird. It's like, wait, there's an Iron Fist now. So, you know, it is what it is. At the end of the day, my love for Iron Fist will always be the same. I will always love that character. Do I want to see him back in Marvel? Yes. Do I want to see him back in the MCU? Yes. Do I have actors that I want to see play him? Hell yeah. I just mentioned one. I definitely, and when they do cast this character again, please make sure this actor is trained and gets time to train in martial arts. I don't want some guy, like I said, Finn, it just wasn't right for me. It just wasn't right. I'm just like, no, it's not working. It's not working at all. You know, it's not. You know, if they want to stay current with the, you know, Iron Fist being Asian, then I gotta go hire Noah Flater as him. You know, if y'all don't know who Noah is, he's the guy that is the model of Kenshi in Mortal Kombat 1. He would be perfect as Iron Fist. Go ahead. I want to keep him what he currently is now, fine. But at the same time, I just want to see a better representation of him live action, because Finn Jones just wasn't it. Yeah, you gave us bits and pieces seeing him in the costume, but no, it didn't work. It wasn't. Well, guys, thank you for that, Duke. I appreciate that. I look forward to what is another character. For any Omega level tier members, this is what you get. You know, you get me telling my history of the character, I'm looking forward, Duke, to the next one you pick. You know, it was fun. I was shocked that you gave me Iron Fist, and you know, instead of like Spider-Man or so, but it's fine. But outside of that, guys, you guys take care. Deuces.